So this is your first hunt.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Predator: Badlands is the 9th installment in the Predator franchise and a transformative entry that shifts the narrative focus from humans to a young predator named Dek. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Eisen, the film explores Yautja culture, ethical dilemmas, and survival through the eyes of the predator, offering audiences a nuanced perspective rarely seen in the series. With producers John Davis, Mark Tobroff, Ben Rosenblatt, and Brent O'Connor, and a musical score by Sarah Schachner and Benjamin Wallfish, the film combines high-stakes action, rich world-building, and deep emotional storytelling. The story begins with Dek, an outcast among his clan on Yautja Prime, struggling to gain recognition from his father, Njor, and other elders. Dek is tasked with hunting the Kalisk, a legendary creature of Jenna, a remote and hostile planet. The Kalisk represents the ultimate test of skill, intelligence, and courage. Along the way, Dek encounters Thaya, a damaged Weyland-Yutani synthetic, who provides critical guidance and strategic support. Thaya's twin sister, Tessa, serves as the primary antagonist, embodying corporate ruthlessness and moral inflexibility. Dek's brother, Quay, aids him against clan orders, emphasizing themes of loyalty, moral choice, and family. Jenna itself functions as a living, dangerous character, with an alien ecosystem full of predatory plants, aggressive fauna, and environmental hazards. The Kalisk, and its offspring Bud, introduce moral and emotional complexity, challenging conventional predator-prey dynamics. Dek's journey requires a blend of physical skill, intelligence, and ethical decision-making, highlighting cooperation and empathy as key survival traits. Combat sequences emphasize strategy, tactical ingenuity, and mastery of predator technology, including plasma casters, wrist blades, and cloaking devices. Yautja society is depicted as hierarchical and tradition-driven, valuing strength, skill, and adherence to ritual. Dek's arc reflects tension between societal expectation and personal morality, as he evolves from marginalized outcast to a respected figure capable of ethical decision-making and strategic innovation. The intervention of Bud and the collaboration with Thaya illustrate the film's central theme: survival is maximized through understanding, empathy, and cooperation. The climax combines spectacular action with emotional and philosophical resonance. Dek defeats the Kalisk while protecting Bud, and later faces his father Njor in a climactic duel, where traditional authority is challenged by moral courage and adaptability. These sequences underscore the narrative's exploration of honor, family, and the ethical dimensions of power. Visually and technically, the film excels. Yautja FX and other studios integrate practical effects and CGI to create immersive alien landscapes and realistic creatures. Jeff Cutter's cinematography emphasizes scale, danger, and perspective, while editing ensures clarity and narrative momentum. Schachner and Wallfish's music and immersive sound design reinforce suspense, tension, and emotional depth, heightening both action and character-driven moments. The film also subtly connects to the broader Alien Predator universe through Weyland-Yutani synthetics, allowing for potential crossovers while maintaining a self-contained story. Marketing campaigns highlighted Dek as the Predator protagonist, the alien environments, and ethical dilemmas, generating excitement among fans and newcomers alike. Critical reception has been positive, with reviewers praising narrative innovation, world building, and character depth, particularly the reimagining of a predator as a nuanced protagonist. Thematic exploration in Badlands revolves around identity, honor, survival, empathy, and ethical responsibility. The narrative challenges the franchise's traditional focus on dominance and aggression, emphasizing intelligence, moral choice, and interspecies cooperation. Dek, Thaya, and Bud's arcs set the stage for sequels and expanded storytelling, exploring Yautja society, interstellar adventures, and potential franchise crossovers. In conclusion, Predator: Badlands reinvigorates the Predator franchise by offering a fresh perspective, deepening character and cultural exploration, and combining thrilling action with philosophical and ethical inquiry. It successfully blends spectacle with substance, delivering a film that is both entertaining and intellectually engaging, and establishes a compelling foundation for the future of the Predator universe. As the story unfolds, the complexity of Yautja society becomes increasingly apparent. The Predator clans operate under strict codes, where honor, strength, and cunning dictate social standing. Deck's status as an outcast shapes every interaction he has, not only on his homeworld but on the alien planet where he seeks both survival and personal validation. Throughout the journey, the film explores rituals of combat, hierarchical struggles, and the societal expectations placed on predators. Deck's choices, successes, and failures are measured against these codes, creating tension that is both internal and external. His personal growth is therefore inseparable from his understanding of Yautja culture, making the narrative a profound exploration of identity within a structured alien society. Thaia's role continues to evolve, particularly with the introduction of her twin sister, Tessa. Unlike Thaia, Tessa is more calculating and ambitious, representing a different perspective on artificial intelligence and autonomy. The tension between Thaia and Tessa provides a counterpoint to Deck's journey, introducing moral complexity and emotional stakes beyond survival. The sisters' dynamic explores themes of loyalty, ambition, and the consequences of artificial creation, forcing Deck to navigate not only physical threats but also ethical dilemmas. This subplot deepens the narrative, highlighting that the journey is as much about understanding alliances and relationships as it is about overcoming external dangers. The interactions between Deck and other predators on the planet are equally significant. Some predators are hostile, challenging Deck's authority and skill, while others provide guidance or test his understanding of clan expectations. These encounters highlight the diversity of predator personalities and social structures, expanding the franchise's lore. Deck must learn when to assert dominance, when to cooperate, and when to strategically retreat. Each decision has consequences, reinforcing the film's emphasis on intelligence and strategy alongside raw power. This layered depiction of predator society adds narrative richness, transforming what could have been simple confrontations into meaningful story beats. The design of the alien world itself serves narrative and thematic purposes. The environment is simultaneously beautiful and threatening, filled with bioluminescent flora, jagged terrain, and strange creatures that serve as both obstacles and narrative foreshadowing. Environmental storytelling communicates the history of the planet, the presence of past civilizations or creatures, and the harshness of the ecosystem. This immersive world-building enhances the stakes for Deck and Thaia, emphasizing that survival requires not only skill but also careful observation and adaptability. The planet is not a passive backdrop, it is an active participant in the narrative, shaping the characters' choices and testing their resilience at every turn. Deck's encounters with monstrous creatures escalate in both intensity and significance. These creatures range from towering apex predators to swift, cunning hunters, each requiring different strategies to survive. The battles are choreographed to reflect both physical and intellectual challenges, emphasizing that Deck's growth depends on learning, observation, and adaptation rather than brute strength alone. The film balances spectacle with storytelling, ensuring that each confrontation advances character development, highlights Yautja culture, or deepens the relationship between Deck and Thaia. The visual effects and practical design work together to create creatures that feel grounded, alien, and terrifying, further immersing the audience in the story. The narrative structure carefully balances tension, action, and emotional resonance. Early sequences emphasize survival, isolation, and environmental threat, immersing the audience in Deck's struggle. Midway, the story pivots to character dynamics, exploring the relationships between Deck, Thaia, Tessa, and other predators. The climax integrates these elements, combining strategic combat, ethical decision-making, and emotional resolution. Deck's final confrontations are not solely about defeating an adversary but proving his worth, understanding the consequences of his choices, and reconciling his identity with the expectations of his species. This layered approach to pacing ensures that the film remains engaging while providing depth and nuance. Production design and technical execution reinforce these narrative ambitions. The visual effects team combined practical costumes with digital enhancements to achieve expressive predator features, intricate armor details, and seamless integration with alien environments. The alien fauna, ranging from towering beasts to smaller, cunning predators, were meticulously designed to challenge Dek physically and mentally while maintaining believability. Set design, lighting, and cinematography worked together to create an immersive world, balancing the grandeur of alien landscapes with intimate character moments. Every visual element contributes to storytelling, from environmental hazards to the placement of alien structures and remnants of previous conflicts. The film's soundscape and score further amplify immersion. Composer-driven themes convey both the isolation of the alien world and the evolving relationship between Dek and Thaya. Action sequences are punctuated with precise sound design that communicates scale, weight, and danger, ensuring audiences feel the tension of combat and environmental hazards. Music and sound are carefully interwoven with narrative beats, reinforcing emotional resonance and highlighting critical turning points in character arcs. The soundscape is integral to the storytelling, emphasizing atmosphere, stakes, and narrative progression. Marketing strategies highlighted the film's unique perspective and narrative risks. Trailers emphasized Dek as the protagonist, signaling a departure from human-centered predator narratives. Promotional materials showcased the alien environment, intricate creature designs, and the evolving relationship between Dek and Thaya. Social media campaigns, exclusive previews, and behind-the-scenes content emphasized the world-building, cultural depth, and technical achievements of the production. The PG-13 rating was used to highlight accessibility, appealing to a wider demographic while maintaining the franchise's signature intensity and excitement. The combination of visual spectacle, narrative innovation, and strategic marketing contributed to audience anticipation and early commercial success. Critical reception has largely praised Predator: Badlands for its ambitious storytelling, character depth, and visual design. Reviewers noted the innovative choice to center a predator as protagonist, highlighting how the film balances action, lore, and emotional resonance. The relationship between Dek and Thaya was frequently cited as a compelling emotional core, providing a humanizing counterpoint to the alien-centric narrative. Critics also appreciated the expansion of Yautja culture, the development of social hierarchies, and the thoughtful exploration of honor, loyalty, and identity. The film's pacing, immersive world-building, and thematic richness were recognized as elevating the franchise beyond standard monster action. The commercial performance of the film has reinforced the potential for franchise revitalization. Strong box office results, coupled with positive audience reception, suggest that the narrative risks taken by focusing on an alien protagonist were successful. The combination of spectacle, character-driven storytelling, and franchise familiarity contributed to both domestic and international interest, demonstrating that innovation within a beloved series can yield substantial rewards. Early revenue performance indicates that the film has established a new trajectory for the Predator franchise, potentially paving the way for sequels and spin-offs that explore different aspects of Yautja society and interplanetary narratives. Looking forward, the film's ending and narrative thread suggest avenues for expansion. Dek's personal growth, alliances, and the resolution of his exile position him as a central figure for future stories. The unresolved tensions with other predators, the presence of artificial beings like Thaya and Tessa, and hints of larger societal and interplanetary conflicts provide fertile ground for sequels. The franchise's legacy is further enriched by the possibility of connecting these stories to other science fiction narratives, including potential ties to the broader universe of corporate-driven artificial intelligence, alien species, and interstellar exploration. As Predator: Badlands approaches its climax, the interplay between narrative, character development, and thematic exploration becomes most pronounced. Dek's confrontation with the apex predator is more than a physical battle, it is a crucible that tests his accumulated knowledge, emotional growth, and understanding of honor. The apex creature embodies not only the environmental and physical dangers of the planet but also the societal pressures and expectations imposed upon Dek. Every maneuver, every choice during the confrontation, reflects his evolution from an outcast to a figure capable of embodying the values of his species while forging his own identity. The resolution of this battle is as much about character revelation as it is about spectacle, emphasizing the film's commitment to emotional and narrative weight. The dynamics between Dek, Thaya, and Tessa reach a peak during these sequences. Thaia's intelligence and foresight provide critical support, while Tessa's ambition introduces conflict and ethical tension. Dec must navigate not only the physical threats of the alien environment but also the moral and strategic dilemmas posed by the artificial beings. These interactions explore themes of loyalty, agency, and the consequences of choices in a universe governed by strength, intelligence, and survival. The narrative demonstrates that alliances are nuanced, that trust is earned, and that decisions carry lasting impact, elevating the story above simple action-oriented storytelling. The broader Yautja society is illuminated through these climactic events. Hierarchical structures, clan politics, and cultural rituals are showcased in ways that deepen audience understanding of predator civilization. Dec's journey highlights the complexities of honor, social expectations, and familial duty, offering a lens through which the audience can engage with the species' values. By embedding these elements within an action-driven narrative, the film creates a rich tapestry of lore and character interaction, allowing viewers to appreciate the predators as a nuanced culture rather than mere antagonists. In summary, Predator: Badlands is a milestone within the franchise, redefining expectations by centering the narrative on a predator protagonist. It combines survival, exploration, and combat with deep character arcs, cultural world-building, and emotional resonance. Dec's journey from outcast to capable and honorable figure provides both spectacle and insight, while Thaia and Tessa's roles enrich the narrative with ethical and emotional complexity. The alien environment, creature design, and visual storytelling create a fully immersive cinematic experience, while the score and sound design heighten both tension and emotional engagement. The film succeeds not only as a high-octane action spectacle but also as a narrative exploration of identity, honor, and belonging. By presenting the Yautja as a sophisticated society with complex moral codes and hierarchical structures, the story elevates the franchise from monster-centered thrills to character-driven epic. Its thematic depth, technical achievements, and fresh perspectives signal a potential renaissance for the Predator universe, offering opportunities for expanded storytelling, sequels, and deeper exploration of interplanetary lore. Ultimately, Predator: Badlands is a bold, ambitious, and visually stunning entry in the franchise. It challenges expectations, deepens the mythos, and delivers a narrative that is as emotionally compelling as it is action-packed. Dec's growth, Thaia's resilience, and the intricacies of Predator culture provide a rich tapestry that will influence both fans and future storytellers. Through careful world-building, character-driven storytelling, and technical excellence, the film transforms the Predator from feared hunter to nuanced hero, redefining what the franchise can achieve and setting a new standard for science fiction action cinema. As Dec continues to navigate the perilous terrain of Jenna, the challenges he faces begin to take on increasingly philosophical dimensions. Each obstacle is no longer merely a physical test of agility, strength, or combat skill, but a crucible in which his understanding of morality, loyalty, and selfhood is refined. From jagged cliffs that test his endurance to predatory creatures that challenge his instincts, every encounter becomes an opportunity for introspection. Dec begins to realize that survival is not simply about defeating threats but understanding them, learning to interpret signals in the environment, predicting behavior, and responding with adaptability and strategic foresight. This evolution in thought and approach marks a departure from the traditional predator archetype, which prioritizes raw strength and instinct above all else. Here, intellect, perception, and emotional intelligence are equally critical to triumph. The bond between Dec and Thaia deepens as their trials grow in intensity. Where initial interactions have been cautious and pragmatic, they evolve into a profound interdependence. Thaia, despite her synthetic nature and physical limitations, demonstrates insight, foresight, and emotional intelligence that complement Dec's raw physical power. She becomes more than a companion, she becomes a moral anchor and strategic partner. In turn, Dec learns to balance instinct with patience, aggression with empathy, and independence with collaboration. Their journey reflects a broader thematic exploration, that true strength is multifaceted, encompassing courage, intellect, moral discernment, and the capacity for connection. The synergy between Dek and Thaya becomes emblematic of the film's exploration of relational dynamics across species, technological boundaries, and cultural frameworks. As Dek and Thaya approach the heart of Jenna, the Kalisk's presence becomes more immediate and menacing. Its regenerative abilities elevate the threat from physical danger to existential uncertainty. Dek must not only rely on skill and strategy but also grapple with the psychological weight of facing a nearly invincible adversary. The Kalisk functions as both a literal and symbolic opponent, a representation of the ultimate test of Dek's abilities, values, and moral compass. The creature's resilience challenges traditional concepts of victory, forcing Dek to confront the idea that triumph may not reside in destruction or dominance but in understanding, strategy, and ethical action. Tessa's role becomes increasingly complex at this juncture. As an antagonist, she embodies the tension between control and autonomy, obedience and ethical discretion. Her relentless pursuit of Thaya and the Kalisk heightens narrative stakes while also interrogating broader questions of moral agency, technological hierarchy, and ethical responsibility. Tessa operates within a system that prioritizes efficiency and outcomes over relational or ethical considerations, contrasting sharply with the emergent values that Dek and Thaya cultivate through their journey. This dynamic underscores one of the film's central philosophical inquiries, the negotiation between systemic authority and individual moral judgment, particularly when survival and ethical imperatives intersect. The climax of the narrative is not a simple confrontation but a layered sequence in which physical, ethical, and emotional stakes converge. Dek faces the Kalisk in a confrontation that demands precision, courage, and adaptability. The regenerative nature of the creature subverts conventional expectations, requiring Dek to reconsider his approach, anticipate novel strategies, and leverage alliances formed through the journey. Thaya's involvement is critical, her insights, guidance, and willingness to act decisively in moments of danger exemplify agency, resilience, and moral courage. Their combined efforts highlight the narrative's thematic insistence on the interplay of strength, strategy, and empathy. Victory is ultimately reframed, it is not defined by brute force or the acquisition of a trophy but by the successful navigation of moral, relational, and existential complexities. The resolution of the confrontation brings several thematic threads to fruition. Dek's recognition by his clan is significant not simply as a reward for martial success but as acknowledgement of his growth, his moral discernment, and the bonds he has cultivated. This shift redefines the meaning of honor within the Yautja culture. It is no longer a metric of violence alone but a broader measure of integrity, insight, and relational awareness. Similarly, Thaya's continued agency and survival reinforce the importance of collaboration, ethical action, and resilience. The narrative emphasizes that heroism is multidimensional, encompassing courage, empathy, strategic intelligence, and moral discernment. The film's visual language continues to reinforce these narrative and thematic elements. Jenna's landscapes are depicted with a careful balance of awe-inspiring grandeur and palpable danger. Expansive vistas, treacherous cliffs, dense alien forests, and luminous alien flora all contribute to a sense of immersion that elevates the stakes of each sequence. The cinematography emphasizes scale, framing Dek and Thaya against their environment to highlight both vulnerability and determination. Creature design, environmental hazards, and visual effects are integrated seamlessly into the narrative, ensuring that the alien world of Jenna feels tangible, coherent, and narratively significant. The musical score amplifies the narrative's emotional and thematic resonance. Moments of tension are underscored with percussive and dynamic arrangements that enhance suspense and urgency. Reflective sequences employ melodic motifs that convey introspection, empathy, and relational depth. The score thus functions as an integral narrative agent, complementing both the visual storytelling and character development. Action, emotion, and thematic reflection are harmonized through the interplay of sound and image, creating a fully immersive cinematic experience. One of the most striking elements of Predator, Badlands is its nuanced exploration of ethical and philosophical themes. The film interrogates questions of honor, loyalty, identity, and agency, particularly in contexts of extreme adversity. Dek's evolution from outcast to recognized figure within his clan illustrates the ways in which moral discernment, relational integrity, and adaptability can redefine traditional measures of success. Thais' role emphasizes the ethical dimensions of agency and choice, challenging the audience to consider the responsibilities inherent in survival, autonomy, and relational commitment. Even Tessa's actions, while antagonistic, provoke reflection on the constraints imposed by systems of authority, the tension between duty and morality, and the consequences of prioritizing efficiency over empathy. The narrative's focus on relational dynamics is further amplified by the inclusion of Bud, the small alien creature who becomes an unexpected companion. Bud represents the possibility of family, loyalty, and belonging beyond rigid hierarchical or cultural structures. His interactions with Dec illustrate how connections forged in adversity can transcend conventional definitions of kinship and social approval. The symbolic significance of Bud's loyalty reinforces the film's central thesis: strength is multidimensional, encompassing courage, strategic insight, empathy, and relational integrity. The production design of the film underscores these thematic considerations. Every element of Jenna's environment is crafted with intentionality, creating a world that challenges the characters physically and morally. The flora, fauna, and atmospheric conditions are not merely aesthetic choices but narrative instruments that shape character development, thematic exploration, and emotional impact. Costume and creature design emphasize individuality, status, and function, visually communicating aspects of culture, hierarchy, and relational dynamics without reliance on exposition. Editing and pacing contribute to the film's immersive quality. High-intensity sequences are interwoven with reflective, character-driven moments, ensuring that the narrative maintains tension while allowing thematic and emotional arcs to unfold. The balance between action and introspection mirrors the journey of the characters. Moments of rapid response, risk, and confrontation are interspersed with periods of reflection, strategy, and relational negotiation. This rhythm reinforces the film's thematic insistence on the interplay of instinct, intellect, and moral discernment in the process of growth and survival. The climax's resolution not only concludes the immediate narrative conflicts but also situates the story within a broader thematic and mythic context. Dec's recognition by his clan signifies the successful integration of his personal growth, moral choices, and relational bonds into the cultural framework of the Yautja. Thais' continued agency emphasizes the importance of autonomy, ethical action, and collaboration. Tessa's actions, while ultimately constrained, highlight the consequences of rigid adherence to authority absent ethical reflection. Together, these outcomes illustrate a complex, morally resonant conclusion that extends beyond the immediate story to consider questions of identity, honor, and relational ethics. Critically and commercially, Predator, Badlands represents a significant milestone in the franchise. It demonstrates that reimagining traditional archetypes, placing a predator at the narrative center, emphasizing character growth, and exploring ethical, emotional, and relational complexity, can resonate with audiences and critics alike. The film's success underscores the capacity of genre cinema to combine spectacle with depth, action with philosophical inquiry, and adventure with nuanced explorations of identity and morality. Dec's journey exemplifies the narrative's broader philosophical engagement, the transformation of an outcast into a morally, emotionally, and strategically capable figure demonstrates the value of resilience, empathy, and relational awareness. The film suggests that true heroism and honor are multidimensional, encompassing courage, strategy, moral discernment, and the capacity to cultivate meaningful connections across species, cultures, and boundaries. Thais' complementary journey illustrates the potential for agency, ethical insight, and courage in beings initially perceived as constrained or limited. Together, their arcs offer a meditation on growth, responsibility, and the interplay between individual agency and relational interdependence. In conclusion, Predator, Badlands stands as a compelling example of how a long-standing franchise can evolve and innovate. By foregrounding the emotional, ethical, and philosophical dimensions of its central characters, the film expands the possibilities of the Predator mythos. Jenna's alien world, the challenges faced by Dec and Thea, the symbolic and literal threats they confront, and the complex dynamics with Tessa and Bud all converge to create a narrative that is visually spectacular, thematically rich, and emotionally resonant. The film redefines the boundaries of action, science fiction, and monster cinema, demonstrating that even in a genre often associated with spectacle and combat, profound exploration of character, morality, and relationality is not only possible but compelling. As the narrative of Predator, Badlands reaches its denouement, the audience is invited to reflect on the profound transformation that has occurred, both within Dek and within the broader mythology of the Predator universe. Dek's evolution from a physically small, socially marginalized outcast to a figure of moral, emotional, and strategic strength is a central achievement of the film. He embodies a more complex conception of heroism, one that transcends brute force and embraces relational insight, ethical discernment, and resilience. His journey is emblematic of the broader philosophical questions the film poses: what constitutes true honor? How does one measure strength in a society that prioritizes combat above empathy? Can an individual, even within rigid hierarchical structures, redefine identity through courage, intelligence, and ethical action? The culmination of Dek's journey is marked not merely by physical victory but by the recognition of his growth and his capacity to forge bonds that transcend conventional expectations. The Yautja culture, traditionally depicted as valuing martial dominance above all, is reframed in Badlands as capable of appreciating nuanced forms of strength, including wisdom, strategic thinking, empathy, and the ability to cultivate meaningful alliances. Dek's acceptance by his clan is symbolic. It signifies a reconciliation of personal integrity with societal expectation, demonstrating that the evolution of self need not come at the expense of cultural belonging, but rather can expand and enrich it. Thaia's narrative arc complements and amplifies these themes. Her existence as a damaged synthetic being initially defined by limitations imposed by her creators evolves into a demonstration of agency, courage, and moral judgment. Thaia's choices highlight the film's exploration of autonomy, the capacity for self-determination, and the moral responsibility of individuals, whether organic or synthetic. Her willingness to confront danger, make sacrifices, and engage in collaborative problem-solving underscores a broader thematic assertion, that heroism and moral significance are not reserved for a single species or form but are qualities defined by action, integrity, and relational commitment. Through Thaia, the audience is invited to consider the possibilities for agency, resilience, and ethical growth even in entities designed or constrained by external systems. Bud, the small alien companion, serves as a narrative and symbolic counterpoint. His loyalty, perceptiveness, and willingness to recognize Dek as part of his clan offer a subtle yet profound meditation on the nature of belonging and family. The bond between Dek and Bud challenges conventional notions of hierarchy and social approval, suggesting that true relational bonds are founded not solely on cultural mandates but on mutual respect, shared experience, and ethical integrity. Bud's role exemplifies the film's consistent theme that the measures of strength, honor, and belonging extend beyond formal structures, encompassing relational insight and empathetic engagement. Tessa's presence continues to provide a necessary counterpoint, reflecting the dangers of rigid adherence to authority absent moral reflection. Her pursuit of Thaia and the Kalisk emphasizes the tension between control, ambition, and ethical responsibility. Tessa embodies the risks inherent in prioritizing outcomes over relational and ethical considerations, serving as a cautionary figure within the narrative. Through her actions, the audience is prompted to consider the consequences of systems that reward efficiency and obedience while neglecting the relational and moral dimensions of decision-making. This tension enhances the film's philosophical depth, illustrating that heroism and ethical action require not only personal courage but the discernment to navigate complex moral landscapes. The final confrontation with the Kalisk crystallizes these intertwined themes. The creature's regenerative ability and formidable presence serve as a literal and metaphorical representation of challenges that cannot be overcome through brute force alone. Dek and Thaia's navigation of this confrontation highlights the importance of adaptability, strategic intelligence, and relational cooperation. The narrative asserts that overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles necessitates not only physical skill but insight, moral awareness, and the capacity to leverage alliances effectively. In this sequence, action and philosophy are interwoven. The stakes of survival are inseparable from the stakes of moral and relational integrity. Visually, the climax reinforces the film's thematic concerns. Jenna's alien landscapes are depicted with a careful balance of majesty and peril, emphasizing the tension between beauty and danger inherent in the natural and alien world. Cinematography highlights the scale of challenges relative to Dek and Thaya, reinforcing their vulnerability while simultaneously showcasing their resourcefulness and courage. Creature and environmental design are integrated into the narrative, conveying both aesthetic wonder and functional narrative purpose. The visual storytelling amplifies the audience's understanding of the stakes, heightening both emotional engagement and thematic resonance. The score, composed with sensitivity to both tension and reflection, continues to underscore the narrative's emotional and philosophical depth. Moments of high-intensity action are accompanied by dynamic, percussive elements, heightening urgency and conveying danger. Conversely, reflective sequences are supported by melodic motifs that evoke contemplation, relational depth, and the evolving moral and emotional stakes of the characters. The interplay of sound, visual spectacle, and narrative development creates a holistic cinematic experience that engages the audience on multiple levels, blending visceral excitement with intellectual and emotional resonance. Predator: Badlands also functions as a meta-commentary on the evolution of the Predator franchise. Traditionally focused on human protagonists confronted with alien hunters, the franchise is here inverted. The Predator becomes the protagonist, and the story is told through the lens of their culture, values, and challenges. This shift represents a significant innovation in franchise storytelling, emphasizing internal character development, cultural exploration, and thematic complexity. By centering the narrative on a predator's journey of growth, morality, and relational discovery, the film expands the possibilities for narrative engagement, encouraging audiences to consider familiar mythologies through novel perspectives. The film's impact extends beyond narrative innovation. Its commercial and critical success demonstrates the audience's appetite for stories that combine spectacle with thematic depth. Box office performance, audience engagement, and critical reception all point to a successful redefinition of franchise expectations, illustrating that action-oriented science fiction can accommodate complex character development, moral inquiry, and philosophical exploration. Badlands thereby positions itself as both a continuation of established lore and a transformative reinterpretation, laying the groundwork for potential future expansions of the Predator universe that prioritize character, morality, and interspecies relationality alongside action and spectacle. The narrative's concluding sequences reinforce the film's central thematic assertions. Dek's recognition by his clan, Thaya's survival and autonomy, and the resolution of the Kalisk threat collectively demonstrate that honor, heroism, and strength are multidimensional qualities. The film asserts that moral discernment, empathy, relational engagement, and adaptability are as integral to success as combat skill, aggression, and raw power. These conclusions offer audiences a vision of heroism and cultural evolution that is both aspirational and grounded, bridging the gap between speculative science fiction and human, and interspecies, moral reflection. In its final moments, Predator: Badlands leaves the audience with a sense of both closure and possibility. Dek has completed his journey of growth, emerging as a figure of agency, wisdom, and honor. Thaya's continued presence underscores the value of collaboration, ethical action, and self-determination. Bud's loyalty and recognition reinforce the significance of relational bonds formed outside conventional structures. Tessa's retreat, whether literal or symbolic, illustrates the limitations of rigid authority and unexamined ambition. Together, these outcomes consolidate the film's philosophical and emotional investments, leaving a lasting impression that extends beyond the immediate narrative arc. The legacy of Predator: Badlands within the franchise is significant. By reframing the Predator as a sympathetic and morally complex protagonist, the film expands the thematic and narrative possibilities of the universe. It encourages future storytellers to explore Predator culture, ethics, and identity, offering fertile ground for sequels, prequels, and spin-offs that prioritize character development, moral inquiry, and interspecies relationality. Moreover, the film demonstrates that long-established franchises can innovate successfully without abandoning core aesthetic or thematic elements. The balance of action, spectacle, and philosophical depth in Badlands represents a new benchmark for genre storytelling. Ultimately, Predator: Badlands is more than an action-adventure or science fiction spectacle. It is a meditation on identity, morality, and relational responsibility. Deck's journey illustrates that honor and heroism are not solely the product of martial skill but emerge from courage, ethical insight, and the capacity to form meaningful bonds. Thaia's arc emphasizes agency, resilience, and moral reflection, demonstrating that heroism transcends species and form. Bud's loyalty offers a vision of familial and relational connection beyond conventional hierarchies. Tessa's narrative warns against the unexamined pursuit of authority and efficiency at the expense of ethical consideration. Collectively, these elements coalesce into a narrative that is emotionally resonant, philosophically rich, and visually spectacular. In conclusion, Predator, Badlands redefines the Predator franchise by prioritizing character growth, relational depth, and ethical inquiry alongside the franchise's hallmark spectacle and action. It is a narrative that challenges, inspires, and entertains, offering audiences a hero who embodies complexity, resilience, and moral courage. Through the trials of Deck, the guidance and partnership of Thaya, the symbolic significance of Bud, and the tension provided by Tessa, the film crafts a story that resonates on multiple levels. It stands as both a transformative entry in a long-running cinematic universe and a meditation on the enduring questions of identity, honor, agency, and the meaning of strength. By the final frame, audiences are left with a sense of closure that is neither simplistic nor conclusive in the traditional sense. The story's resolution honors the narrative journey, validates the character's growth, and leaves space for reflection, imagination, and the possibility of future adventures. Predator, Badlands thus succeeds in delivering a narrative that is epic in scope, intimate in emotional resonance, and profound in its thematic exploration, representing a landmark achievement in both franchise storytelling and contemporary science fiction cinema. Predator, Badlands represents a bold reimagining within the Predator franchise, shifting the focus from human survival to the journey of a young predator. The film gives depth, motivation, and emotion to one of cinema's most iconic alien hunters. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg and co-written with Patrick Eisen, it is a character-driven story set on an alien world, exploring predator lore, exile, identity, survival, and unlikely alliances. The narrative centers on Deck, a young Yautja considered the runt of his clan. Exiled and marginalized, Deck strives to prove his worth in a society where strength and honor define identity. His journey begins with a crash landing on a distant, hostile planet, teeming with deadly flora, monstrous fauna, and treacherous terrain. The alien environment serves as both a literal and symbolic challenge, testing Deck's physical prowess, intelligence, and resilience. Deck's exile is not only physical but emotional. He is scorned by his father, the clan leader, who regards him as unworthy. Deck's inner struggle, his longing for recognition, and his desire to define himself drive the story. For the first time in the franchise, the Predator is humanized, showing vulnerability, ambition, and the need for personal validation. On this perilous planet, Deck encounters Thaya, a damaged synthetic android reliant on him for mobility. Their alliance forms the emotional core of the story, balancing Deck's physical strength with Thaya's intelligence. Together, they navigate deadly landscapes, confront terrifying creatures, and face an apex adversary that challenges not only their survival but Deck's sense of honor. Through this bond, the film explores trust, empathy, and interdependence, redefining the traditional predator-prey dynamic central to the franchise. Thematically, the story examines exile, identity, strength, and growth. Deck's evolution is both physical and emotional, demonstrating that true strength combines resilience, intelligence, and moral courage. His partnership with Thaya underscores the power of connection, illustrating that even a society built on aggression and hierarchy cannot thrive without trust and cooperation. From the outset, Deck's days on the alien world are fraught with peril. Jagged cliffs, barren deserts, and dense alien forests challenge him at every step. Each encounter forces him to rely on instinct, strategy, and learning, while the planet's hostile ecosystem mirrors his inner struggle, symbolizing his feelings of isolation and inadequacy. With every danger overcome, Deck grows more confident and capable. Thaia's presence transforms Dek's journey. Initially, their relationship is pragmatic. Dek protects her, she guides him, but it evolves into a deep bond rooted in trust and mutual dependence. Thaia's intellect complements Dek's physicality, creating a partnership that is central to the narrative. Through their interactions, the film examines empathy, loyalty, and the unexpected ways relationships can shape growth and identity. The creatures they encounter vary widely, from towering apex predators to smaller, cunning hunters. Each confrontation tests Dek's strength, wit, and morality. Some situations force him to choose between survival and compassion, highlighting the film's narrative depth. The alien planet itself becomes a character. Storms, toxic swamps, volcanic regions, and labyrinthine caves shape the story, demanding creativity and observation. The environment is both a threat and a guide, pushing Dek toward self-discovery. The apex adversary represents the ultimate test of Dek's evolution. Beyond physical might, it embodies societal pressures, cultural expectations, and personal doubt. Confronting this creature forces Dek to reconcile his sense of self with Yautja codes of honor. The climax balances spectacle and character development, emphasizing strategy, moral decision-making, and the emotional stakes of survival. Thaia's narrative arc deepens with the introduction of her twin sister, Tessa, who is ambitious and calculating. Their dynamic introduces ethical tension and complexity, highlighting questions of autonomy, loyalty, and consequence. Dek navigates not only the external threats of the alien world but the moral dilemmas posed by artificial life, reinforcing the film's layered storytelling. The film also offers unprecedented exploration of Yautja society. Predators are depicted as a culture with intricate hierarchies, rites of passage, and moral codes. Dek's exile and subsequent trials illuminate the values and expectations of his species. The film portrays predator civilization as nuanced and morally complex, elevating the narrative from a simple action story to a rich cultural epic. Production design and visual effects contribute significantly to the immersive experience. Dek's armor and weaponry are meticulously detailed, reflecting his outcast status and personal journey. The alien fauna and landscapes are designed with precision, balancing visual spectacle with narrative function. Practical effects combined with CGI create creatures that are terrifying and believable, and environmental storytelling enriches every scene, suggesting history, danger, and depth. Music and sound design enhance both tension and emotion. Sweeping orchestral passages capture the grandeur and danger of the alien world, while subtle motifs underscore the evolving bond between Dek and Thaia. Sound effects convey the scale and weight of creatures, environmental hazards, and predator technology. The audio landscape immerses the audience, amplifying both action and emotional resonance. The narrative structure carefully balances suspense, character development, and action. Early sequences focus on survival and isolation, establishing tension. Midway, the story shifts toward relationships, cultural exploration, and ethical dilemmas. The climax integrates these elements, delivering both emotional and narrative resolution, and highlighting Dek's growth from outcast to capable, honorable figure. Marketing emphasized the film's unique perspective, positioning Dek as the protagonist. Trailers showcased the alien environments, intricate creature designs, and the partnership between Dek and Thaia. Social media campaigns and behind-the-scenes content highlighted the creative and technical achievements, while the PG-13 rating emphasized accessibility without diminishing intensity. The strategy successfully generated audience anticipation and engagement. Critics have praised Predator, Badlands for its innovation, character depth, and visual design. Dek's story offers a compelling emotional core, while the expanded depiction of Yautja culture adds narrative richness. Reviewers highlighted the thoughtful exploration of honor, loyalty, and identity, noting the film's success in balancing action with meaningful character development. Commercially, the film has performed strongly. Its combination of spectacle, fresh perspective, and accessible rating contributed to robust box office performance domestically and internationally. The success demonstrates that creative risk-taking within a well-established franchise can yield both critical and commercial rewards, setting the stage for future installments. The film's ending and unresolved narrative thread suggest potential for sequels. Deck's growth, unresolved tensions with other predators, and the presence of Thaya and Tessa create opportunities for expanded storytelling. The franchise is positioned to explore interplanetary conflicts, Yautja politics, and artificial life, enriching the universe and providing narrative continuity for future films. Ultimately, Predator: Badlands is a milestone in the franchise. It transforms the Predator from feared hunter to nuanced protagonist, blending thrilling action with emotional resonance, ethical dilemmas, and cultural exploration. Deck's journey, Thaya's resilience, and the intricate depiction of Yautja society deliver a cinematic experience that is immersive, intelligent, and deeply satisfying. Through careful world-building, compelling character arcs, and technical excellence, the film redefines expectations for science fiction action cinema and establishes a new standard for the Predator franchise. Predator: Badlands is the 9th installment in the Predator franchise and a transformative entry that shifts the narrative focus from humans to a young predator named Deck. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Eisen, the film explores Yautja culture, ethical dilemmas, and survival through the eyes of the Predator, offering audiences a nuanced perspective rarely seen in the series. With producers John Davis, Mark Tobroff, Ben Rosenblatt, and Brent O'Connor, and a musical score by Sarah Schachner and Benjamin Wallfish, the film combines high-stakes action, rich world-building, and deep emotional storytelling. The story begins with Deck, an outcast among his clan on Yautja Prime, struggling to gain recognition from his father, Njor, and other elders. Deck is tasked with hunting the Kalisk, a legendary creature of Jenna, a remote and hostile planet. The Kalisk represents the ultimate test of skill, intelligence, and courage. Along the way, Deck encounters Thaya, a damaged Weyland-Yutani synthetic, who provides critical guidance and strategic support. Thaya's twin sister, Tessa, serves as the primary antagonist, embodying corporate ruthlessness and moral inflexibility. Deck's brother, Quay, aids him against clan orders, emphasizing themes of loyalty, moral choice, and family. Jenna itself functions as a living, dangerous character, with an alien ecosystem full of predatory plants, aggressive fauna, and environmental hazards. The Kalisk, and its offspring Bud, introduce moral and emotional complexity, challenging conventional predator-prey dynamics. Deck's journey requires a blend of physical skill, intelligence, and ethical decision-making, highlighting cooperation and empathy as key survival traits. Combat sequences emphasize strategy, tactical ingenuity, and mastery of predator technology, including plasma casters, wrist blades, and cloaking devices. Yautja society is depicted as hierarchical and tradition-driven, valuing strength, skill, and adherence to ritual. Deck's arc reflects tension between societal expectation and personal morality, as he evolves from marginalized outcast to a respected figure capable of ethical decision-making and strategic innovation. The intervention of Bud and the collaboration with Thaya illustrate the film's central theme: survival is maximized through understanding, empathy, and cooperation. The climax combines spectacular action with emotional and philosophical resonance. Deck defeats the Kalisk while protecting Bud, and later faces his father Njor in a climactic duel, where traditional authority is challenged by moral courage and adaptability. These sequences underscore the narrative's exploration of honor, family, and the ethical dimensions of power. Visually and technically, the film excels. Weta FX and other studios integrate practical effects and CGI to create immersive alien landscapes and realistic creatures. Jeff Cutter's cinematography emphasizes scale, danger, and perspective, while editing ensures clarity and narrative momentum. Schachner and Wallfish's music and immersive sound design reinforce suspense, tension, and emotional depth, heightening both action and character-driven moments. The film also subtly connects to the broader Alien Predator universe through Weyland-Yutani synthetics, allowing for potential crossovers while maintaining a self-contained story. Marketing campaigns highlighted Deck as the Predator protagonist, the alien environments, and ethical dilemmas, generating excitement among fans and newcomers alike. Critical reception has been positive, with reviewers praising narrative innovation, world building, and character depth, particularly the reimagining of a predator as a nuanced protagonist. Thematic exploration in Badlands revolves around identity, honor, survival, empathy, and ethical responsibility. The narrative challenges the franchise's traditional focus on dominance and aggression, emphasizing intelligence, moral choice, and interspecies cooperation. Dek, Thaya, and Bud's arcs set the stage for sequels and expanded storytelling, exploring Yautja society, interstellar adventures, and potential franchise crossovers. In conclusion, Predator, Badlands reinvigorates the Predator franchise by offering a fresh perspective, deepening character and cultural exploration, and combining thrilling action with philosophical and ethical inquiry. It successfully blends spectacle with substance, delivering a film that is both entertaining and intellectually engaging, and establishes a compelling foundation for the future of the Predator universe. The keynote begins as the audience is immediately transported to the desolate beauty of Jenna, an alien planet that is at once mesmerizing and threatening. The screen, or in this case, the imagination, is dominated by jagged rock formations, endless plains dotted with strange, phosphorescent flora, and skies streaked with twin suns casting alien hues across the terrain. Dek, our protagonist, appears in the opening sequence, a smaller, leaner Yautja, moving cautiously through the terrain. He pauses, scanning his surroundings with heightened senses, his mandibles twitching in anticipation. Every sound is amplified in this world, the whisper of alien whine through jagged canyons, the distant roar of unseen predators, the faint rustle of flora that could conceal a lethal threat. In these first moments, the audience understands Dek's vulnerability, not merely as a smaller physical figure but as an individual marginalized by his clan's rigid expectations. The keynote emphasizes Dek's internal struggle visually and narratively. Close-up shots of his eyes, the subtle tension in his muscular frame, the hesitancy of his movements, convey the weight of shame, expectation, and fear. The audience feels his every step, every decision heavy with consequence. Through visual storytelling, it is clear that this journey is as much about self-discovery and moral growth as it is about survival. Here, the narration could pause to allow the audience to reflect. What does it mean to belong in a society that equates honor strictly with physical dominance? The journey deepens as Dek encounters Thaya. The keynote paints her arrival vividly, broken, half-body missing, yet radiating an aura of intelligence and resilience. She struggles, dragging herself across the jagged terrain, and Dek instinctively responds, lifting her onto his back. The audience experiences this moment as both practical and symbolic, a partnership forged in vulnerability and necessity. As Dek carries her, the narration notes the subtle cues in their interaction, a flick of her mechanical hand, a measured glance that conveys intelligence and strategy, and his own gestures of protection and attentiveness. The scene conveys tension, collaboration, and the beginnings of trust, all without dialogue initially, relying on movement, posture, and mutual awareness. As they traverse Jenna, the keynote focuses on their first confrontation with the planet's fauna. A massive predator, horned and scaled, emerges from the foliage, eyes glowing with predatory calculation. Dek's muscles tense, Thaya whispers directions in mechanical tones. The audience feels the rhythm of the hunt, Dek's calculated movements, Thaya's guidance, the predator's unexpected bursts of speed. The scene is choreographed like a dance, emphasizing suspense, strategy, and adaptation. The keynote emphasizes how these sequences are not only action-packed but emblematic. Survival here is not about brute force alone but about perception, learning, and collaboration. Interwoven with these physical challenges are moments of emotional intimacy and growth. Dek and Thaya rest beside a bioluminescent river, the water reflecting alien constellations above. Dek's gaze is fixed on the horizon, and the keynote draws attention to the visual symbolism, the vastness of the world compared to his own small stature. Thaya, now seated atop a rock beside him, communicates with subtle gestures and electronic chirps, sharing knowledge and strategies for navigating upcoming dangers. The audience senses the depth of their growing trust. This is not a bond forged through casual conversation but through mutual reliance in the face of constant threat. Bud's first appearance is orchestrated with deliberate charm. The small creature, dog-sized but clearly alien, emerges from the underbrush. Its curious gaze meets Deck's, a tentative connection is formed. The keynote emphasizes the symbolic significance. Here, even the smallest being has the power to shape emotional and ethical perspectives. Bud's loyalty becomes a touchstone for Deck's evolving understanding of honor. Strength is not only about dominance but also about the capacity to form meaningful bonds. The keynote then moves to the narrative tension created by Tessa. Her first scene is stark and imposing. She steps from the shadows of an industrialized alien research facility, her movement precise, her gaze cold. She represents the unyielding weight of authority and ambition, a foil to Thias' improvisation and Deck's moral adaptability. Every gesture, every line of dialogue conveys control and calculated threat. The keynote highlights this contrast. Deck and Thea navigate intuition and empathy, while Tessa relies on order, surveillance, and the expectation of obedience. As the story approaches the climax, the keynote paints the Kalisk's lair in epic, cinematic terms. Jagged stalagmites pierce the alien sky, sulfurous fumes rise from volcanic fissures, and the air vibrates with the creature's low, resonant growls. Deck approaches cautiously, eyes darting, senses honed to perfection. Thea perches on a ledge, scanning the creature, calculating distances and potential maneuvers. Bud circles nearby, alert and protective. The keynote emphasizes the theatricality and danger of this encounter. Every movement, roar, and response is charged with consequence. The regenerative abilities of the Kalisk are introduced with slow-motion sequences, each severed head reconnecting with eerie precision, creating tension and narrative uncertainty. The final battle is described as a choreography of precision, strategy, and moral choice. Deck dodges, anticipates, and counters with tools and tactics learned throughout his journey. Thea offers calculated guidance, her mechanical voice a calm counterpoint to the chaos of the hunt. Bud's unexpected interventions highlight the value of unlikely allies and relational bonds. The keynote emphasizes that the victory achieved is not merely physical, it is intellectual, ethical, and relational. Deck triumphs not by destruction alone but by understanding, adaptation, and ethical judgment. As the narrative resolves, the keynote guides the audience through the aftermath. Deck's return to his clan is visually and emotionally powerful, his posture, his calm authority, and the reactions of his peers communicate recognition, acceptance, and transformation. Thias' autonomy and survival signal ethical and relational triumph. Tessa's retreat is silent but significant, emphasizing the limitations of control without ethical reflection. Bud remains a loyal companion, reinforcing the film's meditation on relational integrity and the meaning of family beyond hierarchical constructs. The keynote concludes by reflecting on the overarching themes: honor, identity, moral growth, relational responsibility, and the multifaceted nature of strength. It emphasizes how Badlands innovates within its franchise, transforming the Predator from a simple antagonist to a deeply sympathetic protagonist, exploring alien culture, and delivering philosophical insight alongside breathtaking cinematic spectacle. Visuals, score, creature design, and environmental storytelling are highlighted as instrumental in immersing the audience and enhancing narrative depth. The final message of the keynote is clear: heroism is not singularly defined by physical dominance but by courage, wisdom, moral discernment, and the capacity to form meaningful bonds across species and cultures. By the keynote's end, the audience has experienced Badlands not just as a story but as an immersive journey, through alien landscapes, perilous encounters, and evolving moral landscapes. Deck, Thea, Bud, and even Tessa are framed as agents in a larger meditation on identity, honor, and relational ethics. The planet Jenna becomes a living participant, a visual and symbolic partner in the narrative. Through this immersive keynote, the audience is left with a vivid, emotionally resonant understanding of the film's stakes, its innovations, and its transformative impact on franchise storytelling. Badlands is the 9th installment in the Predator franchise and marks a significant narrative evolution by making a Predator, Deck, the central protagonist. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Eisen, the film shifts the perspective from humans to the Yautja, exploring their society, culture, and ethical dilemmas. The movie blends high-stakes action with rich world-building and emotional storytelling. With producers John Davis, Mark Tobroff, Ben Rosenblatt, and Brent O'Connor, and a musical score by Sarah Schachner and Benjamin Wallfish, the film uses sound and music to enhance suspense and dramatic intensity. This approach allows audiences to understand the Yautja not merely as hunters but as a complex species with traditions, morality, and social hierarchies, adding depth to a franchise historically focused on human perspectives. The story centers on Dek, a young and inexperienced predator who has been marginalized by his clan on Yautja Prime. He struggles to gain recognition from his father, Njor, and other clan elders due to perceived weakness and failure to meet traditional standards. Dek is assigned a mission to Jenna, a remote and hostile planet, to hunt the legendary Kalisk, a creature of immense size, power, and intelligence. Jenna itself is treacherous, filled with alien creatures, predatory flora, and environmental hazards, making survival a challenge that requires careful observation, strategic planning, and adaptability. From the outset, Dek's journey is as much about internal growth and ethical choice as it is about physical survival. The harsh and unpredictable environment of Jenna forces him to reassess his own abilities, rely on intelligence over brute force, and learn to cooperate with others in ways his Yautja society would not traditionally encourage. On Jenna, Dek encounters Thaya, a damaged Weyland-Yutani synthetic. Though physically compromised, Thaya possesses exceptional intelligence and strategic insight, providing crucial guidance for navigating the planet's dangerous ecosystem and understanding the behavior of the Kalisk. Her twin sister, Tessa, serves as the main antagonist, representing corporate ruthlessness and an unyielding pursuit of goals without moral restraint. Dek's brother, Quay, secretly aids him, adding layers of loyalty, familial bonds, and moral complexity to the story. The Kalisk and its offspring, Bud, introduce further ethical dilemmas, as Dek must balance the demands of Yautja tradition with the moral implications of his actions. These characters collectively drive the narrative while exploring broader themes of morality, family, and the responsibilities of power. Jenna functions almost as a character in its own right, with a living and dangerous ecosystem that tests Dek's intelligence and adaptability. Towering rock formations, dense alien jungles, rivers, and subterranean caves are inhabited by predatory plants and creatures whose behaviors are unpredictable and lethal. Every encounter requires observation, tactical thinking, and ethical consideration. The Kalisk, with its extraordinary size and intelligence, represents the ultimate challenge, while its offspring Bud adds emotional stakes and forces Dek to question the morality of hunting and killing. Through these trials, the film emphasizes that survival is not just a matter of strength but also of understanding, adaptability, and empathy, creating a layered narrative where the environment shapes character development and moral choices. Yautja society is depicted as hierarchical, rigid, and deeply rooted in tradition. Clan elders like Njor wield absolute authority, enforcing strict codes of honor, strength, and hunting skill. Dek's early struggles reflect the societal pressure to conform and excel, highlighting tension between cultural expectation and personal growth. As the story progresses, Dek demonstrates that mastery and respect require more than brute force. Intelligence, strategic thinking, and ethical judgment are equally critical. His interactions with Thaya, Quay, and Bud illustrate that collaboration, empathy, and moral discernment are valuable traits, suggesting a potential evolution within Yautja society. The film uses these relationships to examine themes of honor, family, and cultural transformation, showing that ethical action can coexist with traditional values without undermining them. Combat and strategy are central to Dek's development, with each encounter carefully choreographed to emphasize intelligence, agility, and tactical foresight. Dek utilizes iconic predator weaponry, including wrist blades, plasma casters, and advanced cloaking technology, integrating them into the environment and his tactical plans. Battles are framed with dynamic cinematography that emphasizes scale, danger, and the physical and mental challenges of survival. Unlike earlier films that often highlighted brute strength and overwhelming force, Badlands showcases the Predator as a thoughtful and adaptable hunter, making calculated decisions that blend technological proficiency with ethical consideration. Each combat sequence is designed to advance character growth, highlight moral dilemmas, and immerse the audience in Jenna's rich and hazardous ecosystem. The climax blends intense action with philosophical depth, first in Dek's confrontation with the adult Kalisk and then in the final showdown with Njor. Dek defeats the Kalisk while sparing its offspring, Bud, demonstrating that ethical choice and moral courage are essential to true mastery. The duel with Njor challenges the rigid authority of Yautja society and emphasizes the evolving values of honor, strength, and wisdom. Bud's intervention in the final confrontation signals a generational shift within the clan, underscoring the film's recurring message that adaptability, empathy, and ethical awareness are crucial for both personal and societal survival. These sequences reinforce the themes of family, moral responsibility, and the integration of intellect and ethics into traditional Yautja ideals. From a technical standpoint, the film excels in visuals, effects, and sound design. Yautja FX and other studios combine practical effects and CGI to create realistic alien creatures and environments. Jeff Cutter's cinematography highlights both intimate character moments and wide, perilous landscapes, emphasizing scale and danger. The musical score by Shackner and Wallfish, along with immersive sound design, heightens tension, emotion, and suspense throughout the film. Environmental sounds, alien creature vocalizations, and the mechanical hum of Predator technology enhance realism and engagement, creating a fully immersive cinematic experience that complements the narrative and thematic depth. The film subtly connects to the broader Alien Predator universe through Weyland-Yutani synthetics, providing potential crossover opportunities while remaining a self-contained story. Marketing campaigns highlighted Dek as a Predator protagonist, the rich alien environments of Jenna, and the complex ethical dilemmas central to the narrative, generating excitement among fans and newcomers. Critical reception has been largely positive, praising the film's innovative narrative, immersive world-building, and the nuanced portrayal of a Predator protagonist. Compared to earlier installments, Badlands elevates the franchise by integrating intelligence, morality, and emotional depth alongside thrilling action and spectacle. Thematically, the film explores identity, honor, survival, empathy, and moral responsibility. Dek's evolution from a marginalized outcast to a respected figure illustrates the importance of ethical judgment, collaboration, and strategic thinking. Thaya, Bud, and Quay's contributions reinforce the notion that strength alone does not define mastery, moral decision-making and empathy are equally essential. The narrative challenges traditional Predator storylines that focus primarily on aggression and dominance, instead presenting a protagonist capable of growth, reflection, and ethical choice. These themes resonate beyond the science fiction context, offering commentary on leadership, family, and moral responsibility in any society. In conclusion, Predator, Badlands reinvigorates the Predator franchise by combining high-stakes action with deep ethical and philosophical exploration. Dek's journey, supported by Thaya and Bud, creates a rich and layered narrative that balances spectacle with substance. The film expands the franchise's mythology, offering insight into Yautja culture, technological mastery, and ethical evolution, while laying the groundwork for sequels and expanded universe storytelling. By emphasizing moral complexity, collaboration, and the intelligence of the Predator protagonist, Badlands stands as a landmark entry in the franchise and establishes a compelling foundation for future exploration of the Predator universe. Predator, Badlands represents a transformative chapter in the Predator franchise, shifting the narrative focus from human-centered survival stories to the journey of a young predator named Dek. Unlike previous films, which portrayed predators as antagonists, this story humanizes the alien hunter, giving him depth, vulnerability, and motivation. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg and co-written with Patrick Eisen, the film merges action, science fiction, and character-driven storytelling. By placing the predator at the center of the narrative, it explores themes of identity, exile, honor, and survival from a perspective previously unseen in the franchise, creating a fresh and compelling take on a familiar universe. Dek is introduced as the runt of his clan, marginalized and considered unworthy by his own people. His father, the clan leader, views him as weak and incapable, compounding Deck's feelings of inadequacy and isolation. This personal struggle establishes the emotional stakes of the story, framing his journey not just as a fight for survival but as a quest for recognition and self-definition. Deck's exile from his clan serves both as punishment and as a catalyst for growth, forcing him to confront challenges alone and develop skills and strategies necessary for survival, ultimately shaping his identity as a predator in a harsh, alien world. The narrative begins with Deck crash landing on a distant, hostile planet, an environment teeming with deadly flora, monstrous fauna, and treacherous terrain. The alien landscape is not merely a backdrop but an active participant in the story, constantly testing Deck's ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. Jagged cliffs, dense forests, and toxic swamps create constant hazards that challenge his physical abilities, while the behavior of local predators demands strategic thinking and observation. The planet itself mirrors Deck's internal struggle, symbolizing both his isolation and the harsh societal pressures he faces as an outcast. Early in his journey, Deck encounters Thaya, a damaged synthetic android who is reliant on him for mobility. Their alliance becomes the heart of the story, balancing physical strength with intelligence and foresight. Deck provides protection and brute force, while Thaya contributes knowledge, strategy, and emotional guidance. Together, they navigate the planet's dangers and confront terrifying creatures. Their evolving partnership emphasizes themes of trust, interdependence, and empathy, illustrating that survival is not only a matter of physical prowess but also of collaboration and moral judgment. Thaya's role is further complicated by the introduction of her twin sister, Tessa, who is ambitious, calculating, and morally complex. The tension between the sisters introduces ethical dilemmas for Deck, forcing him to navigate the nuances of loyalty, agency, and consequence. Tessa's presence challenges Deck's assumptions about artificial life and morality, expanding the narrative beyond simple survival into questions about the responsibilities and choices of sentient beings. This subplot enhances the story's emotional depth and highlights the consequences of decisions in a universe governed by strength, intelligence, and social codes. As Deck encounters other predators on the planet, the story explores the hierarchical and cultural complexity of Yautja society. Some predators are hostile, testing Deck's combat abilities and strategic thinking, while others provide guidance or present moral challenges. These interactions reveal the diversity of personalities, skills, and cultural norms within predator clans. The film delves into Yautja traditions, rites of passage, and codes of honor, showing that strength alone is not sufficient to gain respect. Deck must demonstrate cunning, ethical reasoning, and resilience to navigate this intricate social structure, elevating the narrative beyond mere action sequences. The alien creatures Deck faces range from colossal apex predators to swift, cunning hunters, each requiring distinct approaches to combat and survival. These battles are designed to challenge both physical and intellectual faculties, ensuring that Deck's growth depends on learning, observation, and adaptability rather than brute force alone. The film carefully integrates these confrontations with character development, making every fight consequential for Deck's understanding of himself, his allies, and predator culture. The creatures themselves are designed to be believable and terrifying, blending practical effects with digital enhancement for immersive visual storytelling. Production design emphasizes authenticity and narrative resonance. Deck's armor and weaponry are intricately detailed, reflecting his personal history and clan affiliation while signaling his status as an outcast. Thaya's design conveys both fragility and resilience, highlighting her dependence on Deck while asserting her intellectual authority. Environmental design reinforces the story, with alien landscapes, ruins, and remnants of previous conflicts providing context and history. Every visual element is intentional, contributing to storytelling and audience immersion by emphasizing the harshness, beauty, and danger of the planet. The score and sound design play a crucial role in establishing atmosphere and emotion. Orchestral compositions convey the grandeur and danger of the alien world, while subtle motifs underscore quieter, character-driven moments between Deck and Thaya. Sound effects enhance the realism of creature encounters, predator technology, and environmental hazards, creating a rich audio landscape that heightens tension and engagement. The combination of music and sound design ensures that both spectacle and emotional beats resonate with audiences. The narrative structure is carefully balanced to maintain suspense, character development, and thematic exploration. The early sequences emphasize survival and environmental threat, establishing stakes and building tension. Midway, the focus shifts to character dynamics, ethical dilemmas, and cultural exploration, adding narrative depth. The climax integrates all elements, combining intense combat, strategic thinking, and emotional resolution. Deck's final confrontation with the apex predator is both a physical and moral trial, symbolizing his personal growth and mastery of Yautja values. Thematically, the film examines exile, identity, honor, and growth. Deck's evolution demonstrates that true strength is multifaceted, requiring courage, intelligence, and moral judgment. Thaya and Tessa's contrasting roles highlight ethical and emotional complexities, reinforcing that survival is intertwined with choices and relationships. Environmental hazards and alien adversaries symbolize both external and internal struggles, reflecting Deck's development as a capable and honorable predator. Marketing for the film emphasized its unique premise, a predator protagonist navigating an alien world. Trailers and promotional content highlighted the visual spectacle, alien landscapes, and character dynamics between Deck and Thaya. Behind-the-scenes features showcased production design, visual effects, and world building. The PG-13 rating expanded potential audiences while preserving franchise intensity, contributing to anticipation and strong box office performance upon release. Critics praised the film for innovation, character depth, and cultural expansion of Yautja society. Deck's emotional journey, the partnership with Thaya, and the ethical dilemmas introduced by Tessa were highlighted as narrative strengths. Reviewers appreciated the balance of action, suspense, and thematic resonance, noting that the film successfully deepened the franchise's mythology while delivering thrilling cinematic experiences. Commercially, the film performed strongly, both domestically and internationally. Its combination of spectacle, innovative storytelling, and accessibility contributed to audience engagement and positive reception. The narrative structure and fresh perspective demonstrated that creative risks within an established franchise can be both critically and financially rewarding, opening avenues for future sequels and expanded storytelling. The film's conclusion and unresolved threads establish fertile ground for sequels. Deck's growth, alliances, and interactions with other predators, along with the narrative possibilities involving Thaya and Tessa, suggest further exploration of Yautja society, interplanetary conflicts, and artificial intelligence. By centering a predator as a nuanced protagonist, the franchise expands its narrative potential, allowing for rich, character-driven stories in future installments. Ultimately, Predator: Badlands is a milestone within the franchise. By transforming the predator into a hero rather than a mere antagonist, the film delivers thrilling action, complex emotional arcs, and sophisticated world-building. Deck's evolution, Thaya's resilience, and the intricate depiction of Yautja culture create a compelling, immersive experience. Through careful production, engaging storytelling, and thematic depth, the film sets a new standard for the franchise and for science fiction action cinema as a whole. Predator: Badlands is the 9th installment in the Predator franchise and marks a major shift by focusing on a predator, Deck, as the central character. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Eisen, the film explores Yautja culture, ethics, and survival from a predator's perspective. With producers John Davis, Mark Tobroff, Ben Rosenblatt, and Brent O'Connor, and a dynamic score by Sarah Schachner and Benjamin Wallfish, the movie combines thrilling action, deep world-building, and emotional storytelling. By presenting the Yautja as a complex species with traditions, societal rules, and moral codes, the film adds depth and nuance rarely seen in the franchise. Deck begins as an outcast on Yautja Prime, struggling to earn recognition from his father, Njor, and clan elders due to perceived weakness. He is sent to Jenna, a remote and dangerous planet, to hunt the legendary Kalisk, a creature that embodies the ultimate test of skill, intelligence, and courage. Jenna itself is hazardous, filled with predatory plants, aggressive fauna, and deadly terrain. From the start, Deck's journey is as much about personal growth, strategy, and ethical choices as it is about physical survival. The planet challenges him to think critically, adapt quickly, and reassess what it means to be a hunter. On Jenna, Dek meets Thaya, a damaged Weyland-Yutani synthetic with exceptional intelligence. Though physically limited, she guides Dek strategically, helping him navigate the dangers of the planet and the Kalisk's behaviors. Thaya's twin sister, Tessa, is the main antagonist, embodying ruthless corporate ambition and moral inflexibility. Dek's brother, Quay, secretly aids him, adding complexity to the family dynamic and highlighting themes of loyalty, trust, and moral responsibility. Meanwhile, the Kalisk and its offspring, Bud, introduce emotional and ethical challenges, forcing Dek to reconsider the Predator's traditional notions of hunting and dominance. Jenna itself acts like a living, active character, with an ecosystem that is unpredictable and dangerous. Alien jungles, cliffs, rivers, and caves are filled with deadly creatures and intelligent predators, creating constant pressure for Dek to remain vigilant. The Kalisk is portrayed as extremely intelligent and nearly invincible, while Bud adds a moral dimension to the hunt. These environmental challenges emphasize that survival requires observation, intelligence, strategy, and ethical decision-making. Strength alone is not enough, Dek must adapt, cooperate, and act morally to succeed. Yautja society is hierarchical, rigid, and tradition-driven, with elders like Njor enforcing strict codes of honor and skill. Dek's initial struggles highlight the tension between societal expectations and personal development. Over the course of the story, he demonstrates that true mastery combines physical ability, intelligence, and ethical judgment. His alliances with Thaya, Quay, and Bud underscore the importance of cooperation, empathy, and strategic thinking. The narrative suggests that Yautja culture can evolve, balancing tradition with moral and intellectual growth, and reflecting themes of family, honor, and responsibility. Combat and technology are central to Dek's journey. He uses iconic predator weapons such as wrist blades, plasma casters, and advanced cloaking technology, integrating them with the environment to outmaneuver enemies. Action sequences are carefully choreographed to emphasize tactical thinking rather than raw power. Each battle shows Dek's growth as a hunter and a thinker, reinforcing the film's central themes of intelligence, strategy, and morality. Unlike previous films, where predators often relied on overwhelming force, Badlands highlights calculated decision-making and ethical consideration in combat. The climax combines high-intensity action with philosophical depth. Dek defeats the Kalisk while sparing its offspring, Bud, demonstrating ethical courage and strategic intelligence. He then faces his father, Njor, in a climactic duel that challenges the rigid authority of Yautja society. Bud's intervention signals generational change, showing that empathy, moral reasoning, and adaptability are vital traits for survival and leadership. These sequences emphasize family, ethical responsibility, and the evolving values of the predator species. Visually, the film is immersive and technically impressive. Yautja FX and other studios seamlessly blend practical effects and CGI to bring Jenna and its creatures to life. Jeff Cutter's cinematography balances sweeping landscapes with intimate character moments, while Shackner and Wallfish's score heighten suspense, tension, and emotional impact. Sound design further immerses the audience, with environmental sounds, alien creature vocalizations, and predator technology integrated seamlessly. Together, these elements create a fully realized and engaging cinematic universe. The story also subtly connects to the broader Alien Predator universe through Weyland-Yutani synthetics, allowing for crossover potential while remaining a self-contained narrative. Marketing highlighted Dek as a Predator protagonist, the rich alien world, and the moral dilemmas he faces, generating excitement among fans and new viewers alike. Critics praised the film for narrative innovation, immersive world-building, and the successful portrayal of a predator as a nuanced, empathetic protagonist. Compared to earlier installments, Badlands elevates the franchise by combining action, intelligence, and emotional depth. Thematically, the film explores identity, honor, survival, empathy, and moral responsibility. Dek's journey from outcast to respected figure emphasizes that intelligence, strategy, and ethical decision-making are as essential as physical prowess. The contributions of Thea, Quay, and Bud highlight the importance of collaboration and empathy in achieving success. By focusing on moral and ethical choices alongside action and combat, Badlands challenges traditional Predator narratives and invites viewers to reflect on leadership, responsibility, and the nature of family and society. In conclusion, Predator, Badlands reinvigorates the franchise by blending thrilling action with ethical, emotional, and philosophical exploration. Dec, Thea, and Bud form a compelling central trio whose growth drives the story forward. The film successfully balances spectacle with substance, providing insight into Yautja culture, morality, and technology while laying the groundwork for future sequels and expanded storytelling. By redefining Predator culture and focusing on moral complexity, Badlands establishes a strong foundation for the franchise's future and sets a new benchmark for character-driven science fiction cinema. Predator, Badlands emerges as a groundbreaking installment in the Predator franchise, taking audiences into uncharted territory by centering the story on a young Yautja named Dec rather than humans encountering predators. From the very opening moments, the film establishes a sense of grandeur and peril, showing Dec's exile in the context of his clan's harsh societal expectations. The visuals immediately communicate both scale and isolation. Jagged peaks of alien landscapes loom in the distance under a pale, streaked sky, while dense forests hum with unseen life, the rustle of alien foliage and distant, primal calls hinting at danger at every turn. Dec's small, armored figure moves deliberately, each step echoing his determination and uncertainty, his breath and movements captured with intimate close-ups that contrast the vastness of the environment. This opening establishes both the visual style and emotional stakes, emphasizing that the story is not only about survival but about proving one's worth in a world where every creature, terrain, and social code is a test of strength, intelligence, and honor. From the outset, Dec's internal conflict is palpable. As the runt of his clan, he has spent his life under the critical eye of his father, the clan leader, whose judgment and expectations weigh heavily on him. The narrative carefully shows Dec's thoughts and insecurities through subtle body language, glances at his reflection in still pools of alien water, and the tension in his movements during combat drills against simulated prey. These details are accentuated by sound design, the low hum of his armor, the hiss of alien insects, and the rustle of predator-adjacent wildlife create a sensory map of his alien environment, reinforcing his vulnerability while emphasizing his need to adapt. Dec's exile is both punishment and opportunity, a rite of passage enforced by Yautja law that demands he navigate the world alone, and through this isolation, the audience begins to understand the stakes of his journey, proving himself not only to his clan but to his own sense of identity. As Dec navigates the alien planet, the filmmakers employ a meticulous combination of practical effects and CGI to make the environment simultaneously mesmerizing and threatening. The alien forests are dense and labyrinthine, filled with luminescent plants that pulse subtly, casting eerie reflections on Dec's armor. Jagged cliffs erupt from the ground unpredictably, while distant waterfalls crash into chasms that seem impossibly deep, emphasizing both the planet's beauty and lethality. Each terrain type serves narrative purposes. Rocky outcrops test Dec's agility and decision-making, swamps hide predators that force stealth and caution, and open plains expose him to larger, apex-level threats. This interplay between environment and narrative mirrors Dec's personal growth. He learns to read subtle environmental cues, anticipate threats, and integrate his instincts with strategic thinking, reflecting a Yautja philosophy where survival is intertwined with intelligence, observation, and adaptability. Dec's first major encounter with Thea, the damaged synthetic android, immediately deepens the narrative by introducing emotional and ethical complexity. Thea is designed to be physically dependent, her limbs and torso scarred from previous conflict, yet her intelligence and insight quickly assert themselves as vital to Dec's survival. Their first interactions are tense, a mix of mutual caution and pragmatic necessity. Dec, unfamiliar with artificial intelligence at this level, initially treats Thea with suspicion, his instincts as a predator urging dominance. Thea, in contrast, demonstrates a quiet authority, guiding him through environmental hazards and decoding alien signals that even a Yautja of greater age might overlook. The cinematography emphasizes this dynamic through alternating close-ups of Deck's reactive eyes and Thaia's calm, precise gestures, establishing the evolving balance between strength and intellect that will define their relationship throughout the film. The narrative invests in these moments, showing that survival is as much about forming alliances as it is about combat prowess. The introduction of Tessa, Thaia's twin sister, layers the story with moral and philosophical complexity. Tessa's presence challenges the bond between Deck and Thaia, representing ambition, calculation, and a different approach to problem-solving. While Thaia relies on collaboration and ethical reasoning, Tessa prioritizes efficiency and outcome, even if it involves morally ambiguous choices. This contrast serves as a mirror for Deck, forcing him to consider not only how he engages with artificial beings but also how his decisions align with Yautja codes of honor. Their interactions are rich in subtext, subtle gestures, dialogue, and visual framing convey rivalry, temptation, and the tension between ethical adherence and practical survival. The audience is invited to consider broader questions about autonomy, consequence, and moral agency, especially in a society that values strength over empathy yet is bound by complex social codes. Deck's encounters with other predators reinforce the film's deep world-building. These sequences illustrate hierarchical structures, clan politics, and the nuanced spectrum of predator behavior. Some adversaries are overtly hostile, challenging Deck physically and socially, while others offer tacit guidance or create moral dilemmas that require strategic decision-making. The choreography of these encounters emphasizes both skill and thoughtfulness. Deck must interpret subtle social cues, anticipate enemy strategy, and respond in ways that uphold his honor. The filmmakers employ a mixture of wide shots to capture epic confrontations and intimate close-ups to convey tactical thinking and emotional stakes, creating an immersive experience that bridges spectacle and character-driven storytelling. Good evening. Today, we journey into the untamed wilds of a world both alien and mesmerizing. We step into the universe of Predator, Badlands, a story of survival, honor, and transformation. I invite you to imagine a planet called Jenna. Jagged cliffs pierce the sky. Strange, glowing flora stretches across endless plains. The wind whispers secrets of creatures that watch, always watch, from the shadows. And in this world, a young predator, small, underestimated, marked as an outcast, takes his first steps toward destiny. His name is Deck. Deck is not the predator you may remember from previous tales. He is leaner, smaller, yet his journey is monumental. Exiled from his clan, he faces not just physical challenges but the judgment of a society that values strength above all else. Imagine carrying the weight of shame, the expectation of greatness, and the fear of failure all in every step you take. This is Deck's reality, a reality where every decision is scrutinized, every misstep could mean permanent exile, or worse. As he moves through the alien terrain, his senses are heightened. Every rustle in the foliage, every distant roar, is a test of instinct and intellect. Deck's journey begins not out of choice, but necessity. The mission, to hunt the legendary Kalisk on Jenna. Success will restore his honor. Failure will define him as an outcast forever. Every step he takes is a mixture of calculation, instinct, and courage. The landscape itself is alive, demanding respect, adaptability, and awareness at every moment. Then she appears, Thaia, a damaged android missing the lower half of her body, yet radiating intelligence, resilience, and resourcefulness. Deck finds her struggling across the jagged terrain and instinctively lifts her, forming a partnership born of survival. Their trust begins not with words, but through observation, shared danger, and mutual reliance. Every gesture, every glance communicates strategy, empathy, and growing respect. Through this partnership, we begin to see the film's underlying themes, cooperation, trust, and relational strength as vital components of survival. Traversing Jenna is treacherous. The flora is deadly, capable of ensnaring or poisoning unwary travelers. The fauna is equally formidable, predators that rival Deck in strength, cunning, and speed. And looming above all is the Kalisk, a near-mythical predator with regenerative abilities. Each encounter with these creatures is a test of Dek's adaptability and Thaia's strategic knowledge. Survival is no longer only about strength, it is about observation, ingenuity, and collaboration. Every moment reinforces that intelligence and moral judgment are as critical as physical power. Along the way, an unexpected companion appears, Bud, a small alien creature initially perceived as insignificant. But his intelligence, intuition, and loyalty become crucial. Bud embodies one of the film's key messages, that strength is not measured solely by size or combat ability. True strength lies in connection, empathy, and trust. His loyalty challenges Dek to expand his understanding of honor and what it means to form meaningful bonds outside conventional hierarchies. Tessa, cold and calculated, emerges as the antagonist. She embodies authority, control, and ruthless ambition, pursuing Thaia and the Kalisk relentlessly. Her presence contrasts sharply with Dek and Thaia's reliance on empathy, observation, and moral judgment. Tessa demonstrates the dangers of rigid adherence to authority without ethical reflection. She is a foil, forcing both the characters and the audience to consider the consequences of prioritizing efficiency over morality and relational integrity. The climax is set in the Kalisk's lair, a breathtaking, perilous environment filled with jagged stalagmites, sulfurous fissures, and palpable tension. Dek's senses are on high alert, Thaia calculates the strategy, and Bud remains vigilant. The Kalisk emerges, its regenerative ability defying expectation. The battle is choreographed with precision, requiring intellect, courage, and collaboration. Every moment is tense, balancing action with philosophical reflection. Victory is achieved not through brute force alone, but through understanding, adaptability, and ethical choice. After the battle, Dek returns to his clan transformed. He is no longer the small, underestimated predator, he is recognized, honored, and validated. Thaia survives, maintaining her autonomy and resilience. Bud remains loyal, symbolizing the power of relational bonds. Tessa retreats, representing the limitations of control and ambition without ethical consideration. Jenna, once a world of pure danger, becomes the backdrop for courage, intelligence, and moral growth. The narrative underscores that heroism is multifaceted, encompassing physical skill, ethical judgment, and relational awareness. The film's themes are profound: honor, identity, moral growth, and relational responsibility. Predator, Badlands redefines heroism, teaching that courage without empathy is incomplete and survival requires more than strength. Dek's journey emphasizes growth, integrity, and moral choice. Thaia demonstrates resilience, agency, and the value of ethical action. Bud reinforces the importance of loyalty and connection. Even Tessa's role provides lessons about the consequences of authority without reflection. Together, their arcs create a narrative that resonates emotionally, intellectually, and philosophically. In conclusion, Predator, Badlands is more than an action-packed story. It is a meditation on morality, identity, and relational ethics. It transforms the Predator from antagonist to protagonist, elevating franchise storytelling to include philosophical depth alongside cinematic spectacle. The visuals, score, and creature design immerse the audience fully in Jenna's world. By the end, we are left with a clear lesson: true heroism is multidimensional, defined not only by power but by courage, wisdom, empathy, and the ability to form meaningful bonds across species and boundaries. As we leave this alien world, we carry with us the lessons of Dek, Thaia, and Bud. That strength is multidimensional. That heroism requires ethical discernment. That honor is as much relational as it is martial. Predator, Badlands stands as a testament to how franchise cinema can innovate, offering an immersive, emotionally resonant, and philosophically rich story that captivates audiences while redefining the very meaning of heroism and courage. As Dek and Thaia journey deeper into the alien planet, the threat of native predators escalates, providing both narrative tension and opportunities for character growth. The filmmakers designed each creature to reflect unique ecological niches, behavioral patterns, and thematic symbolism. Some are massive, towering predators with armored hides and multiple sensory organs, capable of detecting even subtle vibrations in the terrain, forcing Deck to combine stealth, agility, and his evolving tactical acumen. Other creatures are smaller, faster, and deceptively intelligent, requiring Deck to interpret patterns, exploit weaknesses, and anticipate ambushes. The encounters are meticulously choreographed to showcase both physical prowess and cognitive strategy, demonstrating that survival on this planet depends equally on intellect and instinct, a reflection of Yautja cultural values that honor cunning as much as strength. The relationship between Deck and Thaya deepens during these sequences. As they face shared dangers, their interactions evolve from transactional cooperation to a nuanced partnership grounded in trust, empathy, and mutual reliance. Thaya's intelligence allows her to predict predator behavior, decipher environmental hazards, and guide Deck through lethal terrain, while Deck's physical abilities ensure their survival against overwhelming odds. The cinematography highlights this symbiosis, alternating between wide shots that emphasize scale and peril, and tight close-ups capturing the micro-expressions, hesitations, and reactions that convey their developing bond. Sound design further enhances this connection. The rustle of alien foliage, subtle mechanical whirs from Thaya's systems, and Deck's armored movements create a rich audio tapestry that reinforces both tension and intimacy. Tessa's presence adds another layer of tension and thematic exploration. Unlike Thaya, she embodies ambition and efficiency, willing to take morally questionable actions to achieve objectives. This contrast forces Deck to consider the ethics of leadership and survival, juxtaposing Yautja codes of honor against practical necessity. Tessa's interventions complicate the narrative, introducing moral dilemmas that challenge Deck's instincts and highlight the film's exploration of agency, consequence, and the intersection between artificial intelligence and sentient ethics. These interactions are presented visually with strategic framing. Tessa is often placed above Deck in wide shots, subtly emphasizing her imposing intellect and influence, while close-ups capture his internal struggle as he weighs loyalty, pragmatism, and cultural expectation. The alien environment itself functions as a living, reactive character. Volcanic regions emit deadly gases and molten rivers that test both strategy and courage, while dense, bioluminescent forests create opportunities for both concealment and ambush. Jagged cliffs, unstable terrain, and rapidly changing weather patterns amplify tension, requiring Deck to read environmental cues and anticipate threats in real time. The filmmaker's attention to detail ensures that every movement, shadow, and sound contributes to narrative immersion, while practical effects combined with CGI create a seamless and believable ecosystem. This environmental storytelling reinforces the theme of adaptation, emphasizing that survival is not merely physical but requires observation, intelligence, and moral judgment. Deck's encounters with other predators further reinforce the richness of Yautja society. Some rivals are aggressive, seeking to assert dominance or punish perceived weakness, while others serve as guides, testing his understanding of clan customs and codes. Each interaction is carefully layered with social, moral, and tactical dimensions. For example, a tense confrontation on a cliff edge forces Deck to choose between brute force engagement and a calculated maneuver that demonstrates both intelligence and restraint. These sequences highlight the franchise's evolving depiction of predators. No longer mere hunters, they are a complex species with social hierarchies, cultural expectations, and moral codes that inform every choice. The apex predator encounter serves as the film's narrative and thematic climax. The creature embodies the ultimate combination of physical danger, environmental mastery, and symbolic challenge, representing both Deck's personal fears and societal pressures. The battle sequences are carefully designed to emphasize intelligence and adaptability. Deck must anticipate patterns, exploit weaknesses, and integrate lessons learned throughout his journey. Cinematography accentuates scale and danger through sweeping wide shots, while intimate angles capture subtle reactions and tactical decisions. Sound design amplifies tension through layered predator calls, environmental echoes, and the resonant hum of Deck's armor, immersing the audience in the confrontation. The climax is both thrilling and emotionally resonant, as it marks the culmination of Deck's growth and his alignment with Yautja codes of honor. Throughout the narrative, production design continues to reinforce storytelling and thematic depth. Deck's armor is heavily detailed, featuring scratches, dents, and modifications that visually narrate his journey from outcast to capable warrior. Thaia's synthetic components are both functional and expressive, communicating vulnerability, intelligence, and resilience. The filmmaker's attention to these details ensures that every object, costume, and environmental element conveys narrative and emotional information, enhancing immersion and supporting character development without relying solely on dialogue. The film's musical score and soundscape are integral to storytelling. Orchestral motifs provide grandeur and tension, while subtle rhythmic cues underscore suspenseful moments and character interactions. Creature roars, environmental effects, and the mechanical sounds of Predator technology are layered to create a fully immersive auditory experience. Music and sound design emphasize both spectacle and emotional resonance, ensuring that audience engagement is consistent throughout high-intensity action sequences as well as quiet, character-driven scenes. Deck's growth is most apparent in sequences that blend environmental challenges, predator encounters, and ethical decisions. Early in the film, he relies heavily on instinct and brute strength, often reacting to threats impulsively. By the midpoint, he demonstrates strategic thinking, anticipation, and moral judgment, using both his physical abilities and his understanding of predator culture to navigate complex situations. This progression is mirrored in the visual language of the film. His movements become more deliberate, his posture more confident, and his tactical choices more precise. These changes are reinforced narratively through dialogue with Thaya, moral confrontations with Tessa, and interactions with rival predators, solidifying Deck's transformation from an underestimated outcast to a competent, honorable figure. Good evening. Pause 3 seconds, scan the audience slowly. Today, we journey into the untamed wilds of a world both alien and mesmerizing. Slow hand gesture, palms open, we step into the universe of Predator, Badlands, a story of survival, honor, and transformation. I invite you to imagine a planet called Jenna. Jagged cliffs pierce the sky. Strange, glowing flora stretches across endless plains. Lean slightly forward, lower voice for suspense. The wind whispers secrets of creatures that watch, always watch, from the shadows. And in this world, a young predator, small, underestimated, marked as an outcast, takes his first steps toward destiny. His name is Deck. Deck is not the predator you may remember from previous tales. Pause 2 seconds, look around the audience. He is leaner, smaller, yet his journey is monumental. Exiled from his clan, he faces not just physical challenges but the judgment of a society that values strength above all else. Imagine carrying the weight of shame, the expectation of greatness, and the fear of failure all in every step you take. This is Deck's reality, a reality where every decision is scrutinized, every misstep could mean permanent exile, or worse. Gesture with hands emphasizing worse, as he moves through the alien terrain, his senses are heightened. Every rustle in the foliage, every distant roar, is a test of instinct and intellect. Lower tone, slow cadence, Deck's journey begins not out of choice, but necessity. The mission, to hunt the legendary Kalisk on Jenna. Success will restore his honor. Failure will define him as an outcast forever. Every step he takes is a mixture of calculation, instinct, and courage. Raise hands slightly as if measuring distance. The landscape itself is alive, demanding respect, adaptability, and awareness at every moment. Then she appears, Thaya. Pause 2 seconds, softer tone, a damaged android, missing the lower half of her body, yet radiating intelligence, resilience, and resourcefulness. Deck finds her struggling across the jagged terrain and instinctively lifts her, forming a partnership born of survival. Their trust begins not with words, but through observation, shared danger, and mutual reliance. Every gesture, every glance communicates strategy, empathy, and growing respect. Look toward audience as if sharing a secret. Through this partnership, we begin to see the film's underlying themes, cooperation, trust, and relational strength as vital components of survival. Traversing Jenna is treacherous. Voice slightly urgent, hand motions as if pointing to danger. The flora is deadly, capable of ensnaring or poisoning unwary travelers. The fauna is equally formidable, predators that rival Dek in strength, cunning, and speed. And looming above all is the Kalisk, a near-mythical predator with regenerative abilities. Each encounter with these creatures is a test of Dek's adaptability and Thaia's strategic knowledge. Survival is no longer only about strength, it is about observation, ingenuity, and collaboration. Every moment reinforces that intelligence and moral judgment are as critical as physical power. Along the way, an unexpected companion appears, Bud. Pause, smiling slightly, a small alien creature initially perceived as insignificant. But his intelligence, intuition, and loyalty become crucial. Bud embodies one of the film's key messages, that strength is not measured solely by size or combat ability. True strength lies in connection, empathy, and trust. His loyalty challenges Dek to expand his understanding of honor and what it means to form meaningful bonds outside conventional hierarchies. Gesture toward heart, then outward toward audience, Tessa, cold and calculated, emerges as the antagonist. Slow, deliberate tone, she embodies authority, control, and ruthless ambition, pursuing Thaia and the Kalisk relentlessly. Her presence contrasts sharply with Dek and Thaia's reliance on empathy, observation, and moral judgment. Tessa demonstrates the dangers of rigid adherence to authority without ethical reflection. She is a foil, forcing both the characters and the audience to consider the consequences of prioritizing efficiency over morality and relational integrity. Pause 3 seconds, let it sink in. The climax is set in the Kalisk's lair, a breathtaking, perilous environment filled with jagged stalagmites, sulfurous fissures, and palpable tension. Lower voice for suspense, lean forward slightly, Dek's senses are on high alert, Thaia calculates the strategy, and Bud remains vigilant. The Kalisk emerges, its regenerative ability defying expectation. The battle is choreographed with precision, requiring intellect, courage, and collaboration. Every moment is tense, balancing action with philosophical reflection. Victory is achieved not through brute force alone, but through understanding, adaptability, and ethical choice. Slowly gesture forward as if illustrating movement. After the battle, Dek returns to his clan transformed. He is no longer the small, underestimated predator, he is recognized, honored, and validated. Thaia survives, maintaining her autonomy and resilience. Bud remains loyal, symbolizing the power of relational bonds. Tessa retreats, representing the limitations of control and ambition without ethical consideration. Jenna, once a world of pure danger, becomes the backdrop for courage, intelligence, and moral growth. The narrative underscores that heroism is multifaceted, encompassing physical skill, ethical judgment, and relational awareness. The film's themes are profound: honor, identity, moral growth, and relational responsibility. Predator, Badlands redefines heroism, teaching that courage without empathy is incomplete and survival requires more than strength. Dek's journey emphasizes growth, integrity, and moral choice. Thaia demonstrates resilience, agency, and the value of ethical action. Bud reinforces the importance of loyalty and connection. Even Tessa's role provides lessons about the consequences of authority without reflection. Together, their arcs create a narrative that resonates emotionally, intellectually, and philosophically. As we reach the conclusion, imagine the world of Jenna once more. The twin suns casting long shadows across jagged plains. Dek stands tall, transformed not only in skill but in spirit. Thaia remains by his side, autonomous and resilient. Bud looks on, loyal and aware. Tessa retreats, her ambition curtailed but her presence still a warning. Pause 3 seconds, soft smile, the story leaves us with a meditation on courage, morality, and relational integrity. True heroism is not defined solely by strength, but by ethical choice, empathy, and the bonds we forge along the way. Finally, as we leave this alien world tonight, let us carry the lessons of Dek, Thaia, and Bud. Strength is multidimensional. Heroism requires ethical discernment. Honor is relational as much as it is martial. Predator, Badlands stands as a testament to how franchise cinema can innovate, offering an immersive, emotionally resonant, and philosophically rich story.